Where you just went actually, it has more juice for me right now. So I would love to close with that if I may. And that is really your question of like, how do I, have contact with nature? And that's a question right now. I think that's really on the forefront for all of us in our ways. And what comes to me is really like what I feel is that to get as close as you can to the original source of things, to the raw nature of things. And for some of us, that means our backyards. That's why in this time, so many people have started gardening, which is amazing to me because it's that relationship. If you work in the garden, actually, you really are in a cyclical, reciprocal relationship. I mean, very much so. If you are living in an apartment, with every level of separation, it's a little harder. If you still have a balcony, it's one thing. If you don't, if you're living on like the 50th floor somewhere in the middle of, a really busy, so it gets harder and harder, but it's never inaccessible. So I would say go to the closest route that you have, to the original, to where things are unmitigated, because that's where the energy is easiest to feel and to connect with. And one thing when you said, how do I open the window for one, let the wind, let it actually notice that the wind is touching your face. Because there's still that, we can even take it all the way to trying to notice that the breath is still entering our nostrils, that we wouldn't be here without it. And that this breath is coming from the tree that I see outside the window. Try to make as much connection as possible. Get as close to the origins as possible. I also think studying the connection to the original of things can be really helpful at this time. And so with your body, certainly with your senses, like what we talked about, but also literally trying to understand how something works. So we can learning and relationship building with knowledge also can be really good. It's so amazing how many, how heartening it is for us to know, for example, that the way that the forest works is actually in co-participatory nature, and that there is one tree that is actually, when another tree isn't getting light, is filtering a certain amount of what it's receiving through the sunlight of its own photosynthesis, and it's giving that to the other tree who is in the sun less, which is really mind-boggling. And it's so healing for us because we think about competition and, the survival of the fittest, and we have all these things that are really old paradigm thinking. And to open our minds to new co-creational, flowing, naturally evolving, moving, co-participatory relationships, is vital for us. So, all levels are good. So good books are good. It's not like, oh, no, I can only do this with my body right now. Good food for the mind is good. And good food for the soul is important, whether it's a dream journal or, this is also a time where a lot of stuff is evoked. The threshold is so big and our habits are so interrupted that this is a time of opportunity as much as the suffering. It's also a time of insight. It's a time of quantum leaps, that can appear. I almost feel like it's a time where the cracks of the earth are open and there's all this energy emanating. Certainly, if you have any access to the raw natural world, use it.